Hey maker, in this video, I am going to take you behind the scenes of me using Replica Surfaces in-home Replica Studio for the first time. If this is your first time joining me, my name is Christina Nicole, and I am a product photography coach teaching makers like you how to take your own high-quality product photos that actually attract more customers and make more sales for your product-based business without you having to become an actual professional photographer. So this is my first time using Replica Surfaces in-home Replica Studio to do a product shoot. Today I'm going to be shooting this handmade soap from Wise Oak Soapery. Vogt is the owner, and she's a dear friend of mine and a student inside of my course, The Maker's Method, where you learn how to take your own high-quality product photos that attract more customers and make more sales for your product-based business. So what we did is I went ahead and moved this close to a window. We are going to be using natural light. You want to make sure you can get the studio as close to a window as possible so we can create nice, soft shadows. I do have the system locked into place so it does not move, and I have the height adjusted to match our light coming in to the window. For this shoot today, I'm going to be testing a few different Replica Surfaces backdrops from their recent limited release, the Japandi limited release. So let's get started. This one is called Spascape. So what you do is these corners, they have slits. So you just push them in there. Look at that. And I want to start with the sage tile as well. And that we're just going to place on the board. Okay, I got this awesome little trivet that we're going to be placing about in the center. And then we're going to unbox our soap, and we're going to actually place it here. And then Replica Surfaces has these awesome towels. They are marketed that where you do not have to iron or like steam them out at all. But for me, as a product photography coach, it's super important to make sure that every little detail is perfect to get the best absolute quality from your product photos. So we're going to go ahead and steam out this towel quickly so that we can make sure that it just looks perfect and increases the quality. When you focus on those tiny details, they really help set you apart from your competition. So when I do steaming, I like to just hang it over the back of a chair. Okay. And then I got this at Walmart for probably about $40, and we're just going to steam out these wrinkles. Wrinkles, creases. When you get towels that are folded, they're going to have a lot of folds in them. So we just want to make sure that we're paying attention to all those details and getting all of the creases out. It'll make the quality so much better. And this will take less than a few minutes, and it just adds that nice touch. See how simple that was, and now it just looks so much better. So the Spascape in general already has some additional details in the background, so we're not going to use a lot of extra props because our Spascape is already kind of set up that way. So we're going to throw this towel in, and we might end up kind of playing with it a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and turn off any overhead light that we have on because we do want to make sure that we are not mixing natural and artificial light. So let's talk about light for a second, because when you're using a backdrop like Spascape, you will notice that there is already shadowing on this backdrop, and you can actually see a reflection of the light source in one of the bottles. So we do know, based on this backdrop, the most important thing when you're using faux backdrops like this is to make sure that you understand that you want to kind of emulate what you're seeing in that backdrop. So it's going to look really fake if you have shadowing and reflections that are speaking the light a certain way, and then your actual light is opposite, say. Okay, so it's going to be really important that we want to kind of emulate the light and the reflections that we're seeing in this backdrop. So based on this backdrop, we have light coming in from this side, and we can see the window reflecting in one of those bottles. And we do have some shadowing. So we do not have this complete soft even large light source, okay? This light source is probably a little bit smaller. We're getting some soft shadows, but they're still slightly defined. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna actually check and see how our shadowing looks in the camera, okay? And we're gonna make some adjustments from there. I'm gonna move some of this forward because I want a little additional depth. Couple things I'm focusing on as I am, because we do have design here on this bottom, I'm making sure that all of our elements are kind of centered equally between these designs. So after doing a couple test shots, I'm actually pretty happy with the way the light is falling on the product and the amount of shadows that we are getting. So as I mentioned, this is not a direct light source. My sun is actually coming from over here on this side. So we are just getting indirect light coming in from this window. We are getting minimal shadows, and we are seeing just a slight reflection on these surfaces of that light. So Replica Surfaces does market these as being non-reflective, but some of their darker surfaces can have basically kind of like a white haze over them when you have direct light hitting them, okay? So this is just something to keep in mind when using some of the darker surfaces, because it will dull the colors of the surface when you have light directly hitting them. Also, I want to take note that I'm happy with the light because it's kind of emulating the light on this backdrop back here, which is going to be super important. If you want to use faux backdrops and make them look as realistic as possible, it's super important to make sure the light is hitting your product the same way that the light is hitting the elements in the backdrop, as well as we have certain reflections in the backdrop showing that we have a window coming, or a light source coming from this side. So we are emulating and reading the light in this backdrop so that we can actually replicate it and make sure that we are making this setup look as realistic as possible. Okay, so typically when I'm shooting listing photos, I will not be shooting dynamic light, okay? So we want to make sure our product shows as true to real life as possible. So when shooting listing photos, it's really great to actually have soft, even light that creates minimal shadows. And to do that, I would typically put a diffuser in this window. What that does is it actually increases the size of the light source. So the sun is a really, really huge light source, but it's so far away, it becomes tiny in comparison to our setup. So by adding a diffuser to the window, I am able to scatter that light and make the appearance of it bigger, which allows our actual shadows to soften. Okay, during a shoot like that, I would also be adding a white foam core board to the left of the setup so that we could reflect light back onto our setup. That's gonna stay very, 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 don't move, shh. If we speak, it may blow it down. Okay, so I'm gonna take a couple shots with this reflector in there just to see if it, fills in the shadows a little bit. But again, my core focus is keeping my product looking true to the light that's happening in this faux backdrop, because we are using a backdrop that has light elements in it. And that's another additional thing that I want to mention is you can easily use Replica Surfaces does have white surfaces that you can easily place in here to bounce light back as well. So let's see what the results are here. So actually by adding the whiteboard, which it actually affected the lights. Remember I told you we had direct sunlight coming in from this window over here? That direct sunlight is actually coming through and it was hitting this surface and basically kind of blowing out the corner of this surface. So actually by using this reflector and using this whiteboard, it actually blocked that and it made the image a little better in that regards. As far as filling in, it did fill in a little bit of the shadowing, but honestly, what I'm seeing here is a lot of hard, direct light on the left of the setup. And now that we've put this here, because again, it was coming from that direction, now that we put this here, we are not seeing that. Okay, let's go ahead and swap these backdrops and we'll try a little something else. Okay, I'm actually going to swap out the Spascape for the warm bamboo. Just want to see what this is going to look like. Now, I personally always prefer my lines to be horizontal. Okay, so we read images from left to right. So vertical lines in an image can sometimes throw the eye off and play tricks on the eye. When you automatically kind of read an image from left to right, those lines help follow and direct us through the actual image. So I always prefer my lines to go left to right. Now, I don't personally like this pair just because the lines are kind of competing, the trivet's competing with the backdrop. Okay, so I could, which again, let's put this up, see if we can do it. Our balancing act. Perfect. Okay, and I'm actually going to remove this tray, making sure that I center my soap in the middle of one of the sage tile octagons, because again, placement matters. Now we're gonna see how we feel about. And I like this a little bit better without the tray. Now, because we do not actually have any kind of light to emulate in one of our faux backdrops, I'm going to actually use the diffuser in the window so that we can kind of create a softer reflection on this side of the backdrop. Which has reduced our shadowing, but has also reduced the intensity of our light, so we need to adjust our exposure. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm actually going to swap these two backdrops and see what our results get us there. Again, we're not going to use the trivet because we're already kind of competing. Now in this, again, I want to make sure lines are super important, and I like to have placement centered in different lines. So you'll notice that my lines are not centered with the actual sage tile as far as the edging of this. So I'm going to work really hard. Sometimes that can be product adjustment, and sometimes that can actually be camera adjustment and placement. Okay, again, I'm going to add some reflection in to just see how our results look. And I'm going to do a little trick here to show you the difference of what it would look like to actually have these lines vertical. So we're just going to swap this around, move our product this way, and then turn our towel that way. And just look at the difference. I mean, I definitely prefer the lines being horizontal versus vertical. Now, sometimes lines leading to the product can be a great thing, but I almost feel like it's too dynamic. It's taking away too much of the focus from the product to have those lines vertical, whereas when they're horizontal, it's just softer and it just puts more focus on the actual product. We're going to swap out this backdrop for one more. Okay, so this one is called Scandinavian Wood. Again, I want my grain to go horizontally, left to right. And I am going to try and see what the trivet looks like. And our light just changed. I don't know if you noticed, but our sun probably went behind a cloud. So we're gonna have to increase that exposure. Again, making sure our soap is in between. Now, one other thing I want to test is I want to turn this trivet vertically and show you the difference there. Okay, so here we're not looking for center placement on the board. We're looking for center placement in our tile. So real quick, let's talk about the InHome Replica Studio and what my honest review is on it. Again, in full transparency, I am not being compensated for this review or sharing my experience with Replica Surfaces. I personally use Replica Surfaces and I personally love Replica Surfaces and the quality of their backdrops and their limited releases. So this is my first time using the InHome Replica Studio. And I have to say, I love that it can easily be moved around. If I wanted to adjust the way the light was falling on my product, mainly because maybe my backdrop had a different angle of light, I can easily turn the setup around like this. I mean, how cool is that? And for me personally, I mentioned that I am in between studio spaces. So I used to rent studio space here in our local town, and it came to the point where I wanted to move back in home for the convenience. So currently we are renovating a space in our basement for a new in-home studio, but because we're in that transition and I have to do weekly shots, I purchased the studio so that I could easily set up and move around my home and easily tuck it away. So I'm not bringing stuff up and down from the basement every time I want to shoot. Currently, I am working out of my basement. We have a few windows down there, but not enough to create these amazing results. So I needed something that I could easily work with upstairs in our main living space that I could easily tuck away. So as far as all of that goes right now, I'm loving the concept and the idea of being able to move it around. I also love that the surfaces just easily lock into place. Like, how much more simpler can you get? You can take an additional surface, if maybe you have a white replica surface, and you can easily lock it into place to use as a reflector. And then of course the handle can be used to add a diffuser, easy peasy. And then we can easily cart this around wherever we want to go. Another thing I love about the studio, it was just so quick to set up and put together. It took me less than 30 minutes to unpackage and actually put this studio together, and it came with super easy to follow instructions. If you want to watch that video on me unboxing and putting together the Replica InHome Replica Studio, then go to the description below this video and catch the link for that YouTube video. If you're interested in checking out the Replica Studio yourself and you've never purchased Replica Surfaces before, then I want you to head to the link in the description below this video. Replica Surfaces has this amazing rewards program for its VIP members. Basically how it works is anytime I make a purchase, I get rewards towards my next purchase. And anytime I refer you to Replica Surfaces, I also get rewards, and you get 15% off of your first purchase. So when you hit the link in the description below this video, it'll prompt you to enter your email address to receive your 15% off your first order. Once you make your first order, you can sign up to become a Replica Surfaces VIP member as well and start earning your own rewards. Please take the time to like this video if you found it useful, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to learn more about taking your own high quality product photos. See you next time.